I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
This is Fish Jelly.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay. We're recording this Saturday night because you're going to be occupied all day tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing tomorrow?
I am going to be casting my votes for the Los Angeles Film Critics Association and the awards for the best of everything in 2024.
So by next week's podcast, we will know who the winners are.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think they announce everything as they're happening.
Yeah, like they tweet X them out. But I thought it might be interesting to get a preview, certainly not revealing everything that you're doing, but maybe a hint of who you'd like to see win an award, perhaps. So the LA Film Critics Association does something different because they don't give gendered acting awards. They just do best lead and best supporting, and they give 2 for each. So it could be all genders, all like any combination. So maybe can you give us some thoughts on who you would like to see win for best supporting?
Supporting,
like a few names you can throw them out there
that I'll be voting for.
Well, I mean, maybe so you don't get in trouble. Maybe not necessarily who you're voting for, but I'm trying to keep it all vague. But just put some names out there, people who.
Well, I really liked Trina Deerholm in The Girl with the Needle.
The lady who's doing the adoptions, or she's the broker, the adoption broker.
The broker, yeah.
Okay.
Harris Dickinson and Baby Girl.
Okay.
I really liked. I think you and I probably disagreed on her performance, but I really liked Anjanou Ellis-Taylor in Nickel Boys.
Okay.
For supporting. Guy Pearce in The Brutalist.
Yes.
George McKay in either The Beast or Femme.
Oh, sure.
God, I'm trying to. Supporting's hard.
Well, that's good enough.
Tilda Swinton, for Problemista.
Oh, yes. Okay, what about for lead acting?
Lead, Nicole Kidman, Demi Moore.
Nicole Kidman for what?
Baby Girl.
Okay.
Oh my God, yes. Demi Moore for The Substance. I really, Adrian Brody in The Brutalist. Daniel Craig in Queer. Probably Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing.
And then how about best director?
Best director.
I guess I had assumed you'd already formulated these thoughts, so
no, I haven't organized my ratings at all yet for tomorrow, but I know these people will be on there. Sean Baker for Anora, Luca Guadagnino, yeah.
And then what about best film?
Probably Anora. The Beast was my favorite film of last year when I saw it, but it got a theatrical this year, so I'll be voting for that heavily. The Brutalist. That I think that The Brutalist. That'll be a hard film to beat. I don't know. I see The Sacred Fig and Anora also getting a lot of votes. I'm predicting.
Okay. Well, that was riveting. All right. So we got to watch the trailer for The Gorge.
Yes.
That's a new Apple TV movie.
Yes. With Sigourney Weaver in probably a very supporting limited role, but I've been waiting for it with bated breath, but they'll be releasing it Apple TV Plus on February 14th. And they just released the trailer with Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy, who Ms. Joy obviously, or interestingly, dropped out of Robert Eggers' Nosferatu to star in this film. And the director, Scott Derrickson, is not somebody I innately love. I think you like Scott Derrickson more than I do because you liked Sinister.
Oh, sure.
I think the first half of Sinister is good. And I dislike the Black Phone so much that I was kind of a little bummed that she signed on to do a movie with him. But anyway, she liked being in London, and that's where it shot. But The trailer, it looks really cheesy, but it also looks like it could be kind of fun.
The IMDb premise for The Gorge reads: two very dangerous young people who, despite the corrupt and lethal world they operate in, find a soulmate in each other. That is so vague. The story, based on the trailer, is that we live in a world where there's a portal to hell, and that portal is in what's called the Gorge. So it's like this Grand Canyon looking space in the middle of nowhere that like no one goes to. And there are two people guarding it from opposite sides. One is Miles Teller, the other is Anya Taylor-Joy.
Mm-hmm.
And the person managing, at least from the trailer, the person managing Miles Teller is Sigourney Weaver. And she tells his ass, you should have no contact with the person you see on the other side. But in the trailer, we see that through binoculars, they are forming a relationship when one day it looks like Miles Teller's character falls into the gorge and her crazy ass jumps in after him. So I think the trailer makes the film seem cheesy, but the premise from the trailer seems so crazy that I'm looking forward to figuring out what's going on.
There's this monster in a big pit that they're making sure does not come up.
Then we watched an episode of the Graham Norton show because Sigourney Weaver was on it, promoting her performance on the West End.
Her debut in the West End in The Tempest, where she's playing Prospero.
And for people who don't know, Graham Norton is a British talk show host who his shows are like group interviews. So he has a big couch and usually there are 4 celebrities on it. I have to say, I don't know who is a better interviewer than Graham Norton. For him to juggle, and I've seen many episodes of his show over the years, and the other thing is he gets like the biggest stars. So I think that's a testament to how
well he does this hierarchy thing with there's a top tier in the couch, and then as you go back, it's kind of in ranking order of who's the most famous of amongst the 4 guests. But I think what that allows for, there's some equanimity between them and how the conversations flow.
He does a very good job of managing the conversation. He's also a comedian, so he's very witty, very quick, and very funny to me.
Yeah, no, I really like Graham Norton.
But on this episode, it was Sigourney Weaver with Nicholas Hoult, Lolly Adefope, who I was not familiar with, but apparently she's a comedian and actor, and then Jamie Oliver, the chef. And then their musical guest was Coldplay. And I know nothing about Coldplay except they have a song called Clocks. And the only reason I know that is because the singer Brandy sampled Clocks.
I remember that.
I have to say, it was kind of awkward because Chris Martin was invited onto the couch in this like in the final act of the show, but only him initially. And he talked for a bit, and then after Coldplay performed, then it seems like Chris Martin insisted that another band member go with him, and that person didn't really even get to say anything. But I thought Chris Martin was very he seemed really like I would have had no idea. I didn't even know he had an accent. I thought he was American. I don't know. But I thought he seemed like a really nice guy.
Yeah, he seemed sweet, down to earth. And
very down to earth.
It was kind of funny. It's hard to imagine him with Goop, but I guess they did have a conscious uncoupling, and a child named Apple.
I think Jamie Oliver, I'm familiar with him. I thought he was fun. He makes for like a fine enough guest. Lolly Adefope, she was okay.
She was funny. She told one story that was a little rambly, but
yeah, maybe she's not accustomed to being on a talk show. I don't know. And then Nicholas Hoult, I thought was cute.
Yeah, and then Sigourney was lovely as always.
Yeah, and she told a few stories. I thought she seemed to get the most shine, and yeah, I thought she was really cute and funny.
But I mean, but besides learning that her audition, I knew about her audition for Ghostbusters.
That she flubbed it by pretending to be a dog because she had misread the script. But then I guess the director liked
he liked that idea, and that's what happens. That they wrote that eventually into the end of Ghostbusters, where Rick Moranis and Sigourney turned into dogs, because apparently that wasn't there before. But I did know about her auditioning.
Graham Norton said, "Oh, I've had other people who've worked with James Cameron on the show, and basically everyone says he's difficult, except for you. Like, you seem to be the only person who's worked with Jim Cameron." Well, she calls him Jim. He called him James. "You're the only person who's worked with James Cameron and knows him and actually likes him. What's the secret?" And what did she say?
She said, basically, you say yes to whatever he asks you to do. Don't ask him questions.
Don't question him, because she said, there were times when I'd go, "Is this safe?" And then he gets mad. Like, "Yeah, yes, of course it's safe. See, I'll do it myself. See, it's fine." And then and she talked about learning how to dive and hold her breath for 5 minutes and
6.5, I think.
Well, that was with enhanced oxygen, but just regular 5 minutes. And then Graham Norton said, I forgot what the segue was. It was kind of cute, but he goes, "Oh, like this commercial you did back in 1977."
And that I had never seen.
For Campbell's Chunky Soup. And they used the word chunky in that commercial far too many times.
And then she told a funny story about the man, her co-star from that commercial. Because he kept doing the takes, spitting out the soup.
Well, because in the commercial, it's split screen, and it seems like they're both in different, like they're not in the same household, like these two people in the commercial. But Sigourney said we were actually sitting next to each other on set, and that man kept spitting out the soup.
And she's like, "It didn't make you really trust the soup."
Yeah.
And then one of her lines in the man's like, "This soup is so chunky, I could eat it with a fork." And she's like, "Don't do that. Use a spoon."
So you can get every savory ounce of it or something.
But she goes, "I don't know. I was kind of bossy."
That was a cute interview.
It was cute. Yeah. But Norton's known for those.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because I watch his interviews, the algorithm on YouTube is always showing clips of his, and he is very funny.
But yeah, you don't see any major talk show hosts in the US doing that, because I think that it's a lot to handle.
Yeah, and I think Jimmy Kimmel is, compared to Jimmy Fallon, is quite quick, but I think he seems like, because I read an article about him sort of being scared that because he's made sort of more edgy comments or more opinionated comments and they didn't go over well, but he has a lot more mass appeal, right? Like a Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, they have broader appeal. So I think they have to be a little neutered versus like Stephen Colbert, who's very smart and funny, is kind of allowed to be a little more edgy.
Well, because they're not trying to get a mainstream audience per se.
But Graham Norton is, this homosexual who's very out and outspoken and is also in the UK. So it makes sense that he'd have a lot more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on.
Isn't this the land of the free, though?
Britney Spears a few days ago posted some stuff on Instagram, like these crazy ass videos saying that she moved to Mexico because she's tired of the paparazzi, that the paparazzi is so mean. They always take these pictures of her where they edit them where her face looks like the Scream mask. Then the
paparazzi's doing that?
Well, I'm gonna circle back to that. And then she says that these videos came out, I guess, on her birthday. And she turned 43, but she said 42. So she got her birthday wrong.
Oh.
And then she's like, "I'm not really 42. I'm actually 5 and I belong in kindergarten." So just saying weird shit. But then TMZ said this morning that a source said that she doesn't actually live in Mexico, that she was just saying that. And, every time something about Britney comes along, I just have to remind people that all y'all talking about free Britney, this lady is not well. First of all, talking about how the paparazzi is doctoring pictures so she looks bad. In an Instagram video she posted herself where she looks crazy. Okay.
Well,
also, part of me, I was in the shower yesterday thinking, what if the gag is that she is fully aware of how she comes across and she's doing it on purpose?
You mean like Michael Jackson?
Yes. Except that then I was thinking, well, if that's the case, I don't know what the point is, because she's not like, what is the purpose of creating this mystique around her mental health, or but more because it's not benefiting any projects. Like she's not doing anything except released a book that was a bestseller. And then I didn't know this, but John M. Chu is going to direct her, like the movie based on her memoir.
Mm-hmm.
We probably did say that
I
a
think
while
I remember
ago.
reading that.
Yeah, and I didn't remember. But anyway, you know, I mean, I don't know if she's trying to keep the momentum of her seeming unwell going. I think also when she posted this video, it was also like the day that her divorce from that guy was finalized. But here's what I was thinking. If this is all a ruse, it still seems really reckless because she has big kids.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is over 18 because K-Fed stopped getting child support. So,
oh, what's he gonna do now?
well, you know,
He's gonna have to popo sow himself somewhere.
ugh. But it just seems really irresponsible that if she's aware that she's making herself seem this way, how, like, I mean, if my mom were acting like a loon just to get attention, I'd be like, at bare minimum, I'd be embarrassed. But probably my initial thought is I'm worried about my mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
well, kind of like Wendy's son.
but you know, yeah, exactly. But I mean, maybe her kids know that she pretends to be weird, which I still think is weird.
It's all weird.
But anytime she does weird stuff, it just feels like, you know, before y'all were saying free Britney, she looked great. She was working. Now, she didn't want to work. That's one thing. But I don't know. I mean, could she have said, I don't want to work? Like, were they forcing her to do it? Or she also says she likes money. So I'm assuming she liked working.
Well, I feel like Britney's a kid. What's that Bible passage about gaining the whole world? What good is it to lose your soul?
Or in Mahogany, when doesn't Billy D tell Diana, like, what's the point of having success if there's no one to share it with?
Yeah.
Or something?
Oh, that part where Anthony Perkins is driving crazy and photographing Diana Ross.
Oh God, Mahogany needs to be a secret movie.
I love Mahogany. That needs to be a Criterion release. Where is it?
Anyway, I'm more concerned for her. It you know, it still bothers me that people were like vehemently trying to set her free when she needs assistance.
Well, that's like all of these who's being like, the Menendez brothers should just go free. Wait a minute. Hold up.
Also, all you homosexuals saying she's free, and I see in your medicine cabinets you have like many like psychotic like prescriptions for medications to help stabilize your mood or whatever. Like, okay,
just because one has suffered trauma does not mean that they are beyond the pale. You know, there's still there's still procedure and expectations.
She just seemed to be doing so much better before all this happened.
Well,
and then everything has just like spun out of control.
The silver lining, I think she probably was, but she was also being exploited by her handlers who you know,
right,
kind of like Bruce Willis was, I believe, for a while, being tossed around like a pinball in all these Z-grade indie films, and he's doesn't know what's going on.
But anyway, I'll stop talking about her because people get mad. Moving on, Selena Gomez. Did you read about the recent criticism of her performance in Emilia, Pérez?
What, that she didn't speak Spanish?
Well, yes, but there is a guy, Eugenio Derbez, who was on a podcast, Hablando de Cine.
Oh, you've seen him in movies.
Oh, I know who this person is? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. But he basically called her performance indefensible and said that I watched the film with people, and every time she had a scene, we looked at each other to say to each other, wow, what is this? And then learning that the director of that film, whose name is
Jacques Audiard,
doesn't speak Spanish or English. So criticizing, like, how can a person make a movie in Mexico when they don't understand the culture or the language? That would be like me trying to make a movie in Russia.
We get all these
without knowing the culture or speaking Russian.
We have snatched Europeans up to direct Hollywood movies all the time, and that's usually not a good thing because, again, I think there's some nuance lost in translation. Yeah, I think Audiard, but I mean that's what assistants are directors are for. That somebody, you would want somebody on hand that understands the language and can assist you.
But then he goes on to say that it was an interesting experiment, that I really did enjoy the film. I I don't know. I mean, and then several people sent me like this story,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I thought to talk about it today or just now. But I watched the movie. I think I gave it 4.5 out of 5. I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was brilliant. I really loved the story. I thought the performance from the lead actor, her name
Carla
is,
Sofia Gascon.
was just like amazing. I thought the music, the singing, it all really worked for me.
Apparently Jacques Audiard did not even know who Selena Gomez was. So
And then it's like, okay, I speak more Spanish than Selena Gomez. And I watched the movie, and I even commented in our review that I don't know her as an artist, like a musical artist, and I don't know her persona. I assume that she kind of had like a cookie cutter, like, like innocent little image. And then as she's gotten older and become an adult, she's a little more sexual. So the thing that distracted me the most was that she seems like a child to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she has like, she has like little chubby cheeks, like baby face, and
like Shirley Temple.
yeah. So I thought the more sort of like sexual moments were a little jarring, and again, I'm Spanish is not my first language, but her speaking Spanish wasn't distracting to me. Also, her character is like, I mean, we don't know her full
backstory.
Backstory. Her character also lives in Switzerland.
No, she's transported there
No, but she's taken to Switzerland for a while,
mm-hmm.
and then returns after some years.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, not some years, maybe like 2, I think.
It says in the film, but it's
But either way, I mean, we don't know this character's. I don't recall her saying she was born and raised in Mexico. If she did, then sure. Like a person born and raised in Mexico who's Mexican, you would maybe expect. But again, as someone who's not 100% fluent in Spanish, there weren't red flags.
No, but I can understand that because I'm not well versed enough to hear that or catch that because I'm not of that culture. But yeah, of course, that it makes sense to me that somebody who's Mexican would be able to clock the hell out of her.
I'm not saying that Eugenio Derbez is wrong because I often criticize movies where it's like there are gay elements to a story,
and it's clearly written by somebody who.
And then what's the first thing we say? Were there any homosexuals involved in the writing of this? Because this doesn't seem authentic. Or how many times have we said, were there any women involved in this story, like in the writing of the story? So I don't think that it's like he doesn't have a right to point out stuff. I think it seems a little petty to say all that and then say, but I like the movie. Okay, well then it was successful.
Right. Well, what?
But we say a lot of petty shit too. So
of course, I mean, we're human and we should be allowed to be a little bit petty. Just got to keep that shit in check sometimes. But I think that it's good to be curious about other cultures and want to explore that. And I think that if you're a storyteller, you'd be wise enough to have some things checked. But I really liked the film, but it's also gotten a lot of. As soon as I saw it in Cannes, I knew that people were going to come for that movie, but I still really liked it.
Moving on to the restaurant section, we've been doing Whole30, so there hasn't been a lot of food exploration. It's a lot of sweet potatoes,
been making broccoli,
a lot of soup. Mm-hmm. But I have discovered a love for guacamole.
Mm-hmm.
Guacamole. That, I mean, growing up as a kid, my mom and sister love avocados. And my mom would make guacamole all the time. And I thought that shit was so disgusting. It reminded me of boogers. Like, I just didn't want to, like, I hated guacamole, hated avocados. And as an adult, it's like, I'm not paying extra for this shit. And so I will avoid items on the menu that have avocado on them because if I say don't put it on there, I feel like I'm wasting money.
Yes, and then for years I would have to eat lots of avocado that you.
And I will say, if you just put a chunk of avocado on my plate, like next to whatever. It's like, why don't I mean, okay, I guess I'll eat it.
With some lemon or lime juice and some salt. Oh, it's good.
But I discovered I liked guacamole several months ago with Chipotle's. And I think they must put like sour cream in it or something because it's
Yeah.
extra delicious. And the only reason I discovered that is because I had a reward on the app, like free guac and chips. But during Whole30, you found a Whole30 recipe for guacamole?
I think most of recipes for homemade guacamole are already compliant, but
Oh, I thought a lot have some sort of cream in them. Or...
no.
Oh, okay. Well, great. But anyway, you made it. And when I ate that bowl up in like a day and a half.
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't last. I mean, avocado can. You got to eat that shit quick. You can't let it sit. But we also get it at Takaya quite a bit, and they put pomegranate seeds in theirs.
Oh, you're right. Yes, I do also like the one at Takaya with the pomegranate seeds. But yeah, anyway, this past week I've really enjoyed guacamole.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, just a lot of chicken.
And then I did try a new restaurant. It was in Highland Park called Highly Likely.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked it. You know, that area is, it's so weird to be like, oh, this area is so cute. And it's like, well, because it's being gentrified.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a really cute like cafe that had a full bar. It had seating that was mainly like two tops, but they have a really cute patio. The vibe in there was really cute. It's brightly lit. They had like jazz music playing.
Highly likely. It sounds like they sell cannabis.
Highly Likely sells cannabis.
No?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Also, my mom had surgery last week, and my sister was gracious enough to come in from out of town to help her. But after my sister brought her home from surgery, I went to go rendezvous at my mom's place, and my sister messaged me to say mom wants fried chicken. So I stopped at Popeyes.
Mm-hmm.
And a 12 piece, like a 12 piece box of chicken. So I think there were like maybe 4 breasts, like half breast or whatever they call them, and then thighs and wings, 6 biscuits, and then the quote unquote large sides, which were like the size of the wine glass in my hand, which I got coleslaw and mashed potatoes because my mom likes coleslaw. How much do you think that little box of 12 pieces of chicken, 2 little sides, and 6 biscuits cost?
I'm going to guess $27.
$40.
Shit. Wow. I mean, shit has gone up.
I was like, because I didn't pay attention to the prices because you never go on the drive-through, but people know, like when you go to fast food restaurants and they have a drive-through, a lot of them will have like a menu and then another menu, but the second menu is the one that has the speaker. So my dumbass was sitting at the menu forever until someone honked at me, like, you need to move up. So then I was kind of flustered and I just said like, oh, can I get like a family meal? And the lady was like, oh, do you want like 8, 12 or something? And I just said like the middle ones.
Wait, so 12 so how many people is that supposed to feed? 4? I mean,
judging by some of these people I see, that could be one meal.
No, but I mean, like you could.
No, honestly,
you could
not
feed
even
4
joking.
people.
Not even joking. The sides were the size of this wine glass. Like I could have easily eaten the mashed potatoes by myself.
Well,
that would have been a big serving. But when she said you get 2 large sides, I was thinking I was getting like a hefty thing.
Can you say supersize me?
It was like the size of what Ben and Jerry's comes in.
Yeah, but
I thought that was small.
But sadly, that probably is.
That probably is.
A serving size.
I'm sure based on the I sound.
No, but I know what you mean. Especially
and then 6 biscuits, which whatever. But like that didn't feel like a lot of food. And the chicken was like, I don't know. We never buy fried chicken, so I'm not used to.
But so all told, you spent what, $45? I mean, to feed 4 people, that's really not bad.
Sure.
$10 a piece.
I don't know that would feed 4 people though. I mean, my family, sure, because my sister and my mom eat like birds, and then my sister had 2 little wings, and my mom had like 2 wings. Like they ate all the wings, and then I had the two breasts that I picked at, and then
Because you don't like chicken with bones.
I won't bite the chicken, no. And then the coleslaw, only my mom likes coleslaw, so that was like she took 1 spoon of it, so that was basically full. And then the mashed potatoes were all gone, and then no one ate a biscuit. So also they don't have jelly at Popeyes. That bitch was like, because I'm like, can I get butter and jelly? She's like, we only have honey.
Oh, they're stingy on sauce at Popeyes because what is that? Sweet heat?
The sweet heat. They didn't want to give you any sweet heat.
Well, 1 packet. What am I supposed to do with
biscuits with no butter? I was like, what is this? I had to call my sister and be like, if you want some butter, you better take some out the refrigerator and let it get room temperature. But yeah, I was shocked that Popeyes was. I mean, food is getting expensive though.
Oh yeah,
because McDonald's has had to lower their prices. Like, well, they haven't lowered their prices. The combos are still the same, but now they're offering these like value meals that are closer to what you think you should be paying for something. But still, it's like,
well, no, the groceries. I mean, what is it? You put back some grapes the other day.
I was at the store and because this whole 30 shit. Well, let me get some fruit. And it's at the pavilions by our house, and it's the guy who knows you, but I don't know if he recognizes me.
Yeah, he does.
If he does listen to us, hey girl, you were doing your job very well. He was very friendly, but I had several fruits, different varieties.
Bankruptcies
with an S. And the watermelon, I rang it up incorrectly. That thing was like,
wow,
like $17 for this little personal watermelon, But then he's like, I think that's wrong. And he adjusted it to like $5, what I thought it was going to be. But the grapes, I rang those grapes up and they were like $28.
Yeah.
And so I call him over again, like, I think something's wrong. Ain't no way these are $28. And he looked at me like, grapes are expensive. And I'm like, it can't be 28. He's like, well, how much do you think it is? And I'm like, well, I thought it was $6.99.
A pound.
And he goes, for the pound. Like, what?
Yep.
So I had to put those grapes back.
Well, I got some today. Grapes are very good for you. I was reading about grapes this week.
Yeah, what did you learn about grapes?
They're very good for memory loss. They have a lot of antioxidants. And a lot of other things. In other words, eat more grapes. Grapes and broccoli, which we've been eating a lot of. But you know what grapes I like, even though they're a little chemmy, are those cotton candy grapes.
Those are good. They're like candy.
Oh, yeah. And then if you freeze them.
Okay, moving on. There's something in the sorry to this man section, but it's not a mistake. It's more like something I forgot to say.
Oh, no.
Related to our review for Christmas in Compton.
No.
Do you remember that at the very end of the film there was a message about the film?
Oh yes.
And I wrote it down. Like I took the time to type it out and I never read it, but I want to read it now. So this was shown at the end of Christmas in Compton, the movie we reviewed last week. This film is an exercise in conscious filmmaking. Conscious filmmaking is the idea that it is not only a film's goal to become a profitable and successful venture, but also that the filmmakers give back to the community in which it takes place. Conscious filmmaking requires that a film actually contribute to the betterment of the world and leave the community better than before the film was made. Christmas in Compton is a conscious film. So I just wanted to share that. There were no receipts.
Yeah, I'm like, you're just making statements. I don't know. How am I supposed to contradict that?
But reading it, and funny that you mentioned this earlier, because when I read this the first time, it made me think of when Gwyneth was talking about the conscious uncoupling. Like, what are we talking about? Anyway, films released we didn't cover.
I whittled it down to just 3.
Oh, what a nice surprise. Well, then I'll let you say what they are.
The Return, which I asked there's 2 publicists attached to that, and they respond to me all the time. And I
say their names.
No, they're lovely ladies.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. Apparently they didn't want to give out screeners for this, but I would have watched it. It stars Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche, and it's a new adaptation of The Odyssey. Which to me sounds kind of boring, but with those 2 in it, Benoche, I'll watch anything she's in, even some shit she does. But it's directed by Uberto Pasolini, who is is he the nephew of Luchino Visconti? And I love Visconti. But yeah, so that came out and we didn't see it. Although we did have a lot of reviews this week.
Yes, we did.
There were like damn near 30 new releases for December 6th, and we got like 7 or 8 of them, I think. Anyway, the other one that we didn't get to, but I reviewed out of Cannes, was Oh Canada, the new Paul Schrader film. And I read the book by Russell Banks.
Ozzy.
Oi, oi, oi. I read, I guess it's like birds. I have to, I'm programmed.
If anyone in Australia wants to charter a private flight and accommodations, preferably to Sydney, I would do Melbourne, but I don't want to be anywhere where Crocodile Dundee was.
Wow.
Anyway,
that's Crocodile Dundee is the cultural reference. Okay. You're terrible, Mariel. Anyway,
I'm sorry. Oh, Canada.
I would love to go to Sydney, and they have little film festivals. I can be on a little jury.
Well, put it out there.
I just did. Well, I'm also I'm part of the Fapreshi, and I still haven't learned how to utilize how to request to be on various juries. But anyway, Oh Canada.
Anything's for sale. Just remember that.
Anything.
I mean, if the price is right.
There are some things I won't do, but
I can't imagine what that is. But go ahead. Oh, Canada.
I didn't love this film.
Ooh.
And I have a review out there published for it. And
did you like you?
And you know I like Paul Schrader.
Paul Schrader. Who's that?
Joseph.
Did he do Master Gardener?
Yes.
Oh, are you impressed? I know that.
I am, but I mean that's like low on the totem pole for his.
Okay, you can't be both. You can't chastise me for not knowing and then say you're impressed that I knew it, but then go back, but then give it a backdoor compliment by saying that's low on the totem pole.
For Paul
What's
Schrader,
his most popular movie?
Directing, maybe American Gigolo or First Reformed.
And on his list of movies, where does Master Gardener fall? Like as far as popularity?
Oh, I don't know.
Pretty low.
Sure.
So the fact that I knew that as a reference is pretty good.
Yeah. Sure. We still have to get you.
Anyway,
we still have to get you to see Taxi Driver and Raging Bull.
Well, I am not against watching those. Honestly, I don't ever think about those movies. So you would have to choose them as
yes, Mariah.
movies.
I know. I don't know her.
Canada is a Paul Schrader movie.
Yes, with Richard Gere, and I read the Russell Banks book that it's adapted from, which he made a lot of there's a lot he cut out from that, and it's the second Russell Banks adaptation. Affliction was which I've never read, which James Coburn won his Oscar for in 1997. It's fine. I think Uma Thurman is kind of bad in it, and Jacob Elordi is playing the young version of Mr. Gere. It's received some hyperbolic praise from notable people, which I always find interesting about how brains work. Anyway, I didn't really love it, but it's Paul Schrader, so I think anything he does is worth seeing. I just think that this felt a little rough around the edges to me.
Oh, well, we trust your opinion. And what's the third film?
Well, we will be seeing this when it comes on Netflix, but the 6888 got a limited theatrical release from Netflix, who has now sold their soul to Tyler Perry.
Listen, I would really love to watch this movie and be impressed.
I would love. Again, I feel like I always reference the feeling of watching For Colored Girls and being like, you know what, he might be starting to be interesting.
Yeah, but the trailer makes me feel like I'm probably going to have some issues. The only thing saving it is that it's like he seems to fare a little better when the stories require he take them seriously.
Yeah, like a Jazz Man's Blues.
Or For Colored Girls.
Colored Girls, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, at least there's that to hang our hats on.
I don't know, 3 movies in the 1 year and they're all terrible. And a series that I think we should watch that because I would,
Listen, we could just review Lifetime movies and I'd be happy. So I'd be very happy.
Because I started The Perfect Couple yesterday.
You weren't impressed.
God, no.
Well, if we do, because it's Beauty in Black.
Yeah.
I'd be down to watch. Well, you know who's in it? Debbie Morgan and Beyonce's stepdaddy.
Richard Lawson again.
Yes, but this time they're not playing a married couple; they're playing adversaries, and apparently Debbie Morgan plays like hell on wheels. So,
well, that's fun. I like Debbie.
It might be fun.
Yeah,
are those the three?
I hopefully Mr. Lawson gets a better wardrobe than in Divorce in the Black.
Then dressed like Lenny from Of Mice and Men.
What's happening?
Were those your three selections?
Those were the three that we didn't cover that I would say. Oh, and maybe Sujo. But anyway, yeah. And there were many more. There were many more things that came out this week.
We get a lot of comments, and I can't reply to most of them. But I just read one that someone posted on our podcast of the Twilight Zone movie. And I guess I must have told some story about mimosas. I don't recall. But this person shared their own story that I think is cute. They said that back in the day, they worked as a bartender and they were brand new, no experience. And whatever shift they were working, they were making mimosas left and right. And so they were doing that until someone asked for a drink they weren't familiar with because they weren't experienced. And so they look in the recipe book. And as they're looking for this recipe, they go past mimosas and realize that a mimosa is orange juice with sparkling wine or champagne. This person had been making mimosas with vodka. So effectively making screwdrivers for everyone.
Yes.
But
bottomless mimosas.
So people were getting bottomless screwdrivers. But I wonder,
wouldn't you notice though?
Well, but here's my question.
Not the person that's inexperienced making them, but the drinker, the imbiber.
Well, that's what I'm going to ask you is like, if you ordered, if we were sitting for brunch and we ordered mimosas and we got screwdrivers, isn't that an upgrade?
It is, yeah.
So I probably wouldn't complain.
Maybe, sure.
I probably would be like, if anything, knowing me, I'd be like, what kind of sparkling wine is it here? Because this shit is strong as hell. But I thought that was a cute story to share. Anyway, projects of interest. Dossier 137.
Dossier 137. Dominic Mall, I believe, has completed a new feature. I feel like I need to rewatch his earlier stuff. When I was in college, I really thought he was an exciting new French filmmaker, particularly for the film Lemming, starring Charlotte Gainsbourg and Charlotte Rampling and Laurent Lucas. And I need to rewatch that because I have a sneaking suspicion I might not feel the same way about it now, but I have fond memories of it. And then his last film, The Night of the 12th, was fine. But this is a new one. Leah Drucker stars in it, and I like her well enough as well. But sure, that's done filming.
And Glimpses of the Moon.
So Francis Ford Coppola, who's 80 whatever, says
after the success of Megalopolis,
it was not a success, right? He says he's got a couple films left in him, and he's zooming on.
That's like when you have a bowel movement and you're like, I don't think I'm done.
I'm not. Let me go do some jumping jacks.
I shouldn't say that. He's a very accomplished, prolific director.
I want people to be successful. I want to like their films. I don't want to. But anyway, he apparently is going to make a musical version, and he said something like it's going to be a strange 1930s musical of an adaptation of this Edith Wharton novel. And I love Edith Wharton. I don't know. Maybe the fact that I don't know. I would love him to go out on a good note because I don't believe Megalopolis was a good note.
On our Patreon last week, we reviewed the 2007 French horror film Inside, so people can check that out.
And you know what? Quite fortuitously, right after you published that, a publicist sent me a link to those directors' new film.
Oh, that's right. Do you recall the name?
The Soul Eater.
I'm looking forward to watching it.
I'm too. There's some people I really like in that.
Like who?
Virginie Ledoyen and Paul Emy.
Do we have the link right now?
Yeah, we do.
Oh. Well,
might be a horror night.
Ooh. Unfortunately, there's an entry in the obituary section. Steve Mensch died, who is Steve Mensch? He's the president, or was the president, of Tyler Perry Studios.
Was he actually a mensch?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, like not a Yiddish term for like a really good person.
Oh, sure.
I don't know how he spells his last name.
Mensch.
Yeah.
That's here. Let me.
A person of integrity and honor. Wow, that's his last name.
I don't want to get canceled for saying something.
That's
a person
interesting.
Of integrity of honor and honor. Yeah, he was flying his own plane, like his own little small propeller plane, like as a hobby, and it crashed and he was killed. It's a single passenger plane, a little one. But yeah, that's wild. And I saw Tyler Perry posted about it, of course, and saying that he's still trying to wrap his head around it and doesn't understand how the plane crashed, but that his friend loved to fly.
I mean, it's tragic, but how many times have we heard this about these people that love to fly and then they die?
Well, I'm assuming that smaller planes, like there's probably a category that, like when you hit a certain category, I'm sure that the incidence of accident or like crashes are higher. And I would assume that like commercial planes are safer because they have more safety systems in place. But yeah, I mean, if I don't know what the rules are about flying a single passenger propeller plane around, Atlanta or Georgia, and because you're right. You do hear more about these kind of crashes because I'm assuming these kind of planes.
Do you remember the rash of them in the 90s, like JFK Jr., John Denver?
But he was married with 3 children, and I'm sure, that's devastating. He was only 62.
Yeah, that's not very old.
Yeah. All right. The secret film this week was your choice, and you chose the 1990 American Gothic romantic fantasy film, Edward Scissorhands, directed by a Tim Burton.
Tim Burton.
People don't like when we say Burton, as if I don't know it's Burton.
Yes, Tim Burton. I think Burton is funny. That's just like Eugene Green saying it's Eugene Green. Anyway, I was told that we needed to be Christmas themed this month, so that was why I chose this film.
Festive.
This is my attempt to be festive.
Yeah. And part of the story, it's around Christmas time.
Yeah, and I have not watched this film in like 17, 18 years.
I'm sure I saw this movie in the early 90s, like VHS. I didn't remember anything about it except like, popular images like trimming the hedges or the dog. And of course I know the likeness of Edward Scissorhands, played by Johnny Depp. But I don't think I had watched this movie since the early 90s. And then I put it on like maybe 4 months ago, trying to do some work, and didn't pay attention to a single bit of it. So it felt brand new to me. The basic premise: the solitary life of an artificial man who has incompletely constructed... Wait, let me start over. The solitary life of an artificial man who was incompletely constructed and has scissors for hands is upended when he is taken in by a suburban family. Did you have fond memories of this movie?
Very. This is my favorite Tim Burton film. I think his best film is Ed Wood, but this is my emotional favorite.
I like Ed Wood more. I recall loving that film.
Yeah. And
then I recently watched, you told me it was a rewatch. I didn't remember watching it. But Dark Shadows.
Yeah, we saw it in theaters.
I want to rewatch that movie now. But I thought Edward Scissorhands was very cute.
Yeah, I was probably in 2nd grade when I saw it. My mom had rented it. And I think the score, Danny Elfman's score, is like absolute perfection. It tugs at my heartstrings. And watching it as a 40-year-old, I feel like there's a lot of things that don't really make sense. And some of the narrative choices are really strange and I think could have been corrected to make this a masterpiece. This could have been a masterful fable. But there's so much about it that I still really like.
Danny Elfman, do you know what he looks like?
Yes.
Did you know he's covered in tattoos?
Yes.
I did not know that.
And do you know who he's married to?
No.
Bridget Fonda.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so that, oh, you know what? Well, I wouldn't have been able to say that, but I knew that because whenever people comment on her appearance, because she looks like a normal human now,
Mm-hmm.
I always think, oh, well, her husband is super rich, and I'm sure she's sitting pretty anyway. So why
Mm-hmm.
does she need to try hard to do anything?
I thought she had health issues too that made it
Or maybe
difficult.
that, but whatever. I mean, she looks like a normal person to me.
Mm-hmm.
She just doesn't look like La Femme Nikita or whatever that movie she. No,
Well, she was in the English language remake, which is Point of No Return.
Point of No Return.
Mm-hmm.
That's the picture they always show, and it's like no one looks like
You know,
their best
I could
forever.
rewatch that. It's been a minute. I own that too.
Secret film.
Mm.
Okay, the story is pretty simple. We're in like any town, USA, but probably West Coast. Tim Burton has said it's inspired by his upbringing in Burbank,
Mm-hmm.
California, where there's lots of free parking. But
That's true.
anyway, it's like any town, USA, and we focus on one family. The mother is played by Diane Weiss, and we see that she's an Avon salesperson. And when we meet her at the beginning of the film, she's struggling, going door to door. And these people are like, bitch, we know you and we have never bought makeup from you. But she's trying. She's at her wit's end when she decides to go to the house at the end of the block, which is this like, it looks like a haunted house.
It's like a gothic mansion on the top of this hill.
Yeah, like where the Addams family would live. And she goes up there, and from the exterior, it looks like a really scary place. But when she walks in there, the landscaping is beautiful. Someone has like created these beautiful sculptures out of the hedges. And then she just walks inside and is like, hello, anyone home? It's your friendly neighborhood Avon lady. She gets to an attic that has a big hole in it and sees this creepy figure in the corner with hands for scissors. And it's Johnny Depp.
Mm-hmm.
And he's as cute as a button.
Well, he's very sad looking.
He is.
He's got like kabuki makeup on, like he's in a Kanito Shindo film.
And this crazy lady ascertains that he's in this house by himself. And she goes, oh, well, you just need to come home with me then, okay?
Yep. And that's what we're going to do.
And we're going to take a shower every day, okay? And although we never see him clean anything. We don't even, do we see his teeth?
Not that I recall. And we never see him out of, they just put like suburban clothes on top of him. We don't, his layer
on top of his
leather
pinhead Hellraiser outfit. They give him a white like button-up shirt and some slacks. But she brings him home, and it is the talk of the town. It's very like suburban. Housewives are just sitting around gossiping while the husbands are at work. And when they see Diane Weiss roll up with this pale-faced kid with black hair, it's like
they all lose their minds.
Literally lose their minds, gather around her house like pining to find out who he is. And they finally knock on her
hors d'oeuvre. They knock on hors d'oeuvre
and say, bitch, why are you hiding this stranger? You need to, what did you call it when, like in the South, when they introduced like
Deb ball?
A Deb ball. They're like, let's have a Deb ball, which is basically a barbecue, to introduce this kid. And so they do. And immediately everyone sort of acclimates to him like he's normal. There's one neighborhood lady played by Kathy Baker.
Yes. Who's fantastic in this.
She is really good, but she's a little tramp.
Oh, she's a bitch.
And a bitch. But she likes him because he's different. And of course, he's cute, minus the fact that if he attempted to have sex with her, he'd probably give her a hysterectomy. But
and she likes anything that's different, though, because we meet her trying to make moves on
the plumber,
which I hope was giving you Susan Tyrrell Nightmare Maker vibes.
Well, now that you say it, it does. But yeah, that's exactly what it feels like.
Like, ooh.
Anyway, Edward becomes like the talk of the town. He's the hit parade because he's doing everyone's landscaping, and then he moves into dog grooming, which then turns into hairstyling, and everyone loves him.
Mm-hmm.
But where things go left is, so Diane Weiss is married to Alan Arkin, and they have two kids, like a 10, 12-year-old boy, and then a teenage daughter played by Winona Ryder.
Yes, Kim.
with awful blonde hair, which apparently she hated too.
Yep. Apparently that was an in joke, I guess.
But Winona is dating Anthony Michael Hall, who I know, is he in Weird Science?
Yeah, and he's in Breakfast Club. Which
My
you haven't
memory of
seen.
him was being a puny little guy.
Yeah.
But he's kind of jacked in this movie.
Mhm.
If he weren't such an asshole, I would think he's attractive. But Winona is dating Anthony Michael Hall, and he's a dick.
Mhm.
So everything takes a turn because Anthony Michael Hall is jealous of Edward Scissorhands because clearly Winona likes him. And Edward likes Winona. What is her character's name? Peg? Something.
Kim is Winona.
Oh, Kim.
Peg Boggs is Diane Wiest.
Oh. Peg and Kim. Kim and Peg. Anyway, poor Edward gets roped into trying to break into Anthony Michael Hall's dad's house because his dad has a bunch of stuff they can sell, and Anthony Michael Hall needs money because he wants to buy a van. And you made a good point, like, okay, if their house gets broken into
and you suddenly get a new van,
but yeah, and like what? But anyway, so that's the downfall of Edward Scissorhands, because now he gets arrested. The town thinks he's a crook. Then Kathy Baker tries to seduce Edward. Like, I would say she was molesting him.
Yes, she was.
And he freaks out and runs away, and she gets mad. So now she's acting like he raped her, like insinuating.
Yeah.
So now he's fallen really out of favor.
More than insinuating.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it doesn't look good for him. And then he gets in trouble again because he's trying to help his little, like I don't know. You know what it feels like those foreign exchange situations?
Yeah.
Like his host family. What's that little kid's name? The brother?
Kevin.
Who played him?
Robert Oliveri, who was in the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids film.
That's right. Him. Robert Oliveri.
Who hasn't done much after that. Yeah.
But anyway, Edward's trying to help him because Anthony Michael Hall makes his friend drive drunk, and they try to run down Kevin. That scene was crazy.
Well, I think they weren't paying attention. I don't know.
It reminded me of, I caught a glimpse in that movie you watched. I think it was Silver Bullet. Isn't there a scene where the kid's being chased by a car or something?
Yeah,
in a wheelchair?
Yeah,
it kind of looked like that.
Everett McGill's trying to run him down. Yeah,
but the police are coming for Edward Scissorhands when Winona says run, and so he runs back up to his haunted mansion. And then Winona goes to find him, but then Anthony Michael Hall follows. And then they get into like a battle where Anthony Michael Hall tries to kill Edward. And in the process, Anthony Michael Hall gets killed. He like falls out of like the third story or whatever. And then Edward, it would appear that like the roof collapsed on him. But Winona takes it a step further and sort of fakes his death. She tells all the townspeople, he's dead. See, I have proof. I have his like Freddy Krueger hand.
I got his claw.
And literally all these people who are about to lynch him go, I'm going home. This is boring. And that even though one of their sons is dead, lying on the ground, and this other kid has also died. So then that's the end of the film. However, the film is bookended with Winona playing the elderly version of herself, like a 90-year-old woman.
They go very elder. Yes,
very over the top with the aging makeup.
It's very kind of how I felt about Mia Goth and X.
But Winona, as an old lady, is telling what looks like her great granddaughter, who is so tiny, she looks like a Cabbage Patch doll in this big ass bed. She's telling her about the man with the scissors, and then she ends the film by telling her that was the story. And what does the daughter say to her immediately?
Like, why? Because what Kim says, she never saw Edward again, and though she thinks he's still alive and up there on the mountain, and the little girl's like, you could still go there.
That bothered me so much, but we'll get to it. Anyway, she says, well, I don't need to. I have a feeling he's still alive. Well, why? Well, because before Edward came down, it never snowed, and ever since he left, it snows. And then we see Edward carving like ice sculptures, and it creates like all the shavings that look like snow, which I thought was so stupid. But anyway, That's Edward Scissorhands.
It is stupid because it's not fashioned in a way that makes sense. Because I think you could still have that romantic sentiment there. Because the line where even in her old creaky old lady voice says like, and sometimes you can still see me dancing, it like gets me every time. Like I
Well,
like that.
let's start with what works well.
Okay.
So, what are things that stand? Why do you like this movie so much?
It's probably because I saw it at a very impressionable age, but also growing up as a gay person, I think that um, I think Edward Scissorhands kind of had a profound effect as what it feels like to be a pariah.
And
Uh,
other,
and othered, and especially, and I grew up in a small town where everybody, this is exaggerated, but people are up in each other's business like that. When it's just like, leave me alone. Like it's none of your business who I have over. But there's that part of it, and the look. I mean, Tim Burton, I think, is an excellent visualist, and there's just a lot of emotion that I think is very easily tapped into, and maybe, like I said, part of that is my reverence for the score too.
I agree. I like the look. I really like Diane Wiest.
Diane Wiest, again, like kindness always gets me on screen. Like that's usually when I get emotional, is watching people be kind, and she's got that mom energy. She's just, even though good intentions, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. It's like you like that she's kind and sweet and helpful.
Yes, I think so. I didn't remember the story at all. I didn't realize that Alan Arkin as the dad was such a chill, nice guy. So it kind of, I have thoughts on all that, but I really liked him.
Yes, and he's a little kind of too hands off.
I really liked the house, like all these nosy Parkers, all the ladies in the neighborhood, especially Kathy Parker
Baker.
Sorry, why am I saying
Kathy Baker? Nosy Parker, Kathy Baker.
Nosy Parker, Kathy Baker. I liked her.
And
yeah.
Conchata Ferrell, she's always, Tim Burton's regular weirdo Olan Jones as Esmeralda. The only one who we get an inkling of is actually religious, and she's immediately castigates Johnny Depp.
I think, like you mentioned, the overall themes of like not just like how others are pariahs, but also like exploitation.
Yeah,
those general themes are obvious, and so they're effective.
Yeah, it's pretty broad strokey.
What doesn't work for me? Is that all you have for positives?
And Vincent Price.
Oh yes, Vincent Price. I didn't even mention him. He's the inventor of Edward Scissorhands, which of course, and you said this was his last film
that was released while he was alive. Yeah,
wow.
Last cinematic feature.
So of course, seeing Vincent Price on screen in 1990 is cool, and he looks good.
He looks, for what he was suffering from, and I think the flashbacks where we see Mr. Price are really well done, because they both times those happen, they're oddly emotional, especially with him dying right as he's about, in this kind of Pinocchio fashion, like we're about to make you a real boy.
Although I don't know why you didn't build him with real hands in the first place.
Can you tell me why I didn't just have these hands?
But anyway, what didn't work for me, I think, maybe as a kid, I would have, like, this wouldn't have registered, but as an adult who watches a lot of movies, I do think that there are three storylines, right? Because it's this character of Edward Scissorhands who's different and not accepted and afraid. Then you have Diane Wiest as this wife, mother, housewife, but also trying to have a career, it would seem, because she's not doing well as an Avon lady, and she doesn't even seem to understand makeup very well.
No.
And I thought that was an odd choice. So then it's like, does she want to be more independent? I feel like her story is not well developed. Edward as a character is not well developed. And then we have this romance between Edward and Kim, Winona's character,
and they were both dating at the time,
that I also feel like it just doesn't connect for me at all. They just kind of look at each other a couple of times. When she told him she loved him at the end in the mansion, I was like, where'd this come from?
Well, and then you never snuck back up there ever after 70 years
So
to see
then,
him, and you loved him, girl.
exactly. So the final act where Edward is, fallen out of favor and he's being accused and set up, and then
Where it's like a Frankenstein ripoff.
yes,
Yeah.
I think because these three main storylines don't coalesce in a way that, like, it just was very like the ending was very unsatisfying to me, and then the fact that I cannot, for people who haven't seen this movie, or for people who have, it's like that house was at the end of the block. He was not like
Right.
he's like a stone's throw away.
It's like Boo, and it'd be like Boo Radley's house, where all these teenagers would like dare each other to
Right.
go do weird shit on the property generations later.
If I were Winona's granddaughter, yeah, it's like, bitch, you couldn't go, like, what? You never went up there? And then we see him up there still like looking the same because he's not real.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
but he is eating though, but not pooping.
Right. I just felt like, God, what a lonely life. Like, what? Like, I just don't understand his character. Like, what would make Edward happy? What would he want? It's not like Pinocchio, where it's like he has an awareness that he wants to be that he's not a real boy, and so he wants that. Edward, I have no clue what Edward wants.
Right, and then he's just fine. So then it's like Hunchback of Notre Dame, which I'm guessing is why Olan Jones gets an Esmeralda shout out reference, that he's just existing up in this the cloistered and will never come back down again.
If he loved her, why didn't he come down?
Well, that too.
Like, yeah, the people weren't nice to him, but like years passed, he couldn't come down.
But see, I think there was a way to keep the wistful melancholy feeling that feels so good about it, and keep that darkness that it really takes a hard left into in the end. And I think you and I discussed that as the bookend people, the frame narrative should have been from the perspective of someone else, like the brother.
Yes, I think it would have been interesting if the brother would have told, like as an adult, told the story to his grandchild about this guy who stayed with them. And because then I feel like you could have more easily, like the love story didn't, because the fact that Winona's character is telling it makes it feel like, oh, this is this, this love that lasted a lifetime, but it doesn't feel like that. So letting someone else take responsibility of that story would have given more room to be a little more economical with how you're spreading the story around.
Well, I think it should have been Anthony Michael Hall gets slain, and that Edward Scissorhands has to flee, and Kim goes with him, and that
I fully thought she was going to go with him,
and that the brother decades later is relating this story as like that.
Yes.
That's the day my sister disappeared.
Yes.
And you could have still had that lovely line of like, sometimes I still see her dancing in the snow.
Yes.
Like
that, to me, that would have been, for what we got, that would have been the perfect ending. But it makes it sound like I'm like shitting on this movie. I think it's very good. I did enjoy watching it. This is a movie I would watch again.
It's Johnny Depp. Everything's very well done. The production design, I mean, it's channeling, of course, German expressionism, particularly Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, of course. But again, though, I think Tim Burton, especially before CGI kind of slowed his roll, was just fantastic. We hadn't seen things like this before Beetlejuice and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And then, but I just don't think he knows how to tell a story.
Well, based on some other Tim Burton movies I can remember at the moment, yeah, I think maybe it's like fashion over function, or like.
And you can have both.
And you can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly go through my notes. Winona in that old lady makeup, looking crazy as hell. But what was more crazy is that old lady voice she was doing.
Oh, yeah,
it was not effective. And then it was comical how, am I crazy, or did that kid look so small in that bed?
That little girl, yeah.
She looked like a doll in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Diane trying to sell that Avon. You know how embarrassing? Because you know what it made me think of? When I used to work at Wells Fargo, and this was in college. I was 17 years old. My first job in college was at Wells Fargo Bank as a teller. And our hours were based on how many credit applications we could get people to fill out. Which, if people don't remember, back in the late 90s, Wells Fargo got in trouble because employees were submitting credit applications for customers who did not authorize it because there was so much pressure to get people to apply for credit cards and loans, and that my hours got cut. I used to work 17 hours a week when I first started there, and they cut me down to 3 hours a week because I wasn't selling any products.
And the kicker about that is most of the people that come in here do not even want you asking them about that.
Listen, it was so cringy, not unlike Diane trying to sell this Avon, because like I was like the teller who worked in the vault. So I would take all the merchant deposits, like, you know, like the bigger ones where they have a lot of cash and coin because I could count it in the vault. And they would still expect me to ask. And it's like, this person comes in every day. And this person who brings in this deposit is a representative for Jamba Juice. Like they're like the assistant manager at Jamba Juice. They are not here because they want to bank with Wells Fargo.
No.
They're here because Jamba Juice, the person who owns that store, banks with Wells Fargo. So Chris, the assistant manager who makes $8 an hour, is not trying to hear about an auto loan every day when he comes in. Oh, I just hated it so much.
Well, when I was at Sam's Club in college and they wanted cashiers to try to sell, because back then, like a yearly membership was like $35 or something. And they were trying to get it to, they had a plus membership, like you could pay $100 and you get all these bullshitty benefits. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody. And then also to get them to sign up for like their personal, like the Sam's Club Walmart credit card with APRs that were like 26%. Nobody wants that. I don't want to talk to these people and they don't want me to talk to them about it. Oh, I hate it.
Anyway, watching, I mean, that sucked. And watching her have to do it is like, ugh.
Well, especially it's such a close-knit community and all of these raggedy women. Like Kathy Baker is pissed when Diane Wiest knocks on her door because she interrupts her trying to seduce the plumber and slams the door in her face, and not an hour later calling for juicy gossip. It's like, oh, I hate these people.
So Winona's character Kim has a waterbed, which seems odd for a teenager.
You know, as a kid, I wanted one of those so bad.
Okay, so then I was thinking, the first time I ever sat on a waterbed, I was a kid, and then it's like, well, where the hell would I have been that I sat on a waterbed? And then I'm thinking, and I can't be trusted because my memory's terrible, but I think my dad had a gay friend, and that whole scenario is another story that's weird and whatever. But this gay friend, I believe he had a waterbed.
Okay.
And my dad would go like visit him and like bring me sometimes. And then we would all go do stuff like go eat at Sizzler or go see some person. And I recall going into his home and like going into his bedroom and sitting on the waterbed. But have you ever slept in a waterbed? That does not seem comfortable.
I think I probably did as a kid. Because I experienced them, and I wanted when I begged my parents, and like, we don't want that, you know, like because the maintenance of those is not, it's difficult.
Well, I'm assuming like homeowners insurance would be like, because I recall having to say every time we renew a policy or get a new policy, they ask about that because that's like an extra hazard to have. How many gallons are in a waterbed just burst on the third floor?
That's true. And then I haven't thought of this. I was also a bedwetter till I was 12. So my parents were like, we're not buying you any nice beddings till that stops.
Well, actually, being a bedwetter and having a waterbed, I mean, it probably is better.
Yeah, well, you know.
I love the scene when all the nosy wives are, you know, we see them standing outside trying to get information until the sun comes down. And then we see all the husbands drive up like they've come home from work and all the women scatter.
Disperse, yeah.
Which you said reminded you of Don't Worry, Darling.
Yeah.
When Edward first goes to bed, because Diane says, oh, you can sleep in Winona's bed because she was away with her boyfriend, which is kind of crazy. How old's Winona supposed to be?
I don't know.
Because her parents seem to give her a lot of freedom.
They sure do, yeah.
Anyway, that first night, Edward goes to bed in Winona's bed. That creepy ass doll that's like... For some reason, there's a really creepy doll
that's like a clown doll.
Yeah, like right next to him on his pillow,
leering. Yeah.
Ugh. Okay, Diane and her relationship with makeup because she looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But then we see her trying to put makeup on Edward and she has a hard time. Then she tries it again, has a hard time. Then she tries a third time. And the third time, she's actually talking to like the head of Avon, getting tips, and it's still not working. But I just like, I guess I don't quite understand what that whole character thing is supposed to be about. Like,
Well,
that,
I think she was a bored housewife, and there were very few options for her to explore anything.
yeah, that makes sense to
Because
me.
but the small town I'm from, there were people that would sell Mary Kay, and including my mother, and the people that would come over, because these women would host a Mary Kay party, and then somebody would come sell the wares, and it's like, I see you, bitch. You don't know nothing about nothing.
So when Diana's getting ready for the barbecue, she's in the kitchen cooking with Edward, who's like shredding lettuce, which is funny. But I thought the funniest line in the movie to me was Diane telling Edward, "You can't have a barbecue without deviled eggs. They make a thing." They make a thing.
She's so cute.
I thought that was really cute. Oh God.
And the part where she has the epiphany at the end, she says it to at the Christmas party that nobody shows up at, to Winona Ryder, like, I wasn't really thinking it through bringing him down here.
Yeah.
And to have somebody that is, I think, that well-intentioned and then has that, like, my heart, it's just like, oh, your heart just goes out to someone like that. Like,
for sure.
Like, I know you wanted to do good, but that wasn't really it.
Kathy Baker.
Yeah. Have you seen her in anything else? The slut.
She says, well, I'll bring my famous ambrosia salad to the barbecue. My mom likes to make that.
I
but
don't like
and
that.
she says it's a hit. And so I mean, it must be because she keeps making it all the time. So someone's eating that shit.
But she's browbeating all those other ladies. Nobody is telling her no.
Okay, bring your ambrosia salad. But she brings it and it's pink. And then she's trying to seduce Edward at the barbecue and she's feeding him her ambrosia salad. But that big old heaping portion that she put in his mouth, and man, she's talking like, yes, you can. And he has so much of it in his mouth. And then Alan Arkin's asking him, because they're using Edward's scissors to like make shish kebabs. And Johnny Depp is so cute.
He is cute.
Because he's trying to say shish kebab with a mouthful of food.
Mm-hmm.
I hated Winona's hair so much. It just, that shade of blonde. I mean, I don't think any shade of blonde would suit her, but that one in particular is terrible. Okay, Alan Arkin is so cute because he's so laid back.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately he's like, welcome to my home. Tell me more about yourself.
Can you imagine you come home from work and your spouse has this creature man with scissors at the table? Like, he's living here now.
Imagine if your dad, like, how would your dad react?
Oh my God. No, he would.
My dad would be very concerned about money. Like, well, how much is he giving us to be here?
Yeah.
That would be my dad. But Alan Arkin, so Winona comes home a day early. So she sneaks back into the house and not knowing that Edward is in the bed. Also, prior to that, Edward had pierced a hole in the waterbed, so it was leaking water.
Mm-hmm.
And he just covers it with a stuffed animal. And so it seems like, I guess they repaired it. But then when he is startled by Winona returning, he fully shreds the waterbed. And then there's no mention of it again. But of course, she's panicked. But everyone else in the house, mom, dad, and the brother are like, no, it's cool. It's cool. So Alan Arkin takes Edward to like the living room and says, don't worry.
No, the basement.
Oh, the basement.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, don't worry. Oh, yes, it is the basement, because he sets up the pull-out bed. And then they have a bar down there.
Mm-hmm.
So Alan, it's just clear he wants to talk. So he makes...
Well, I think he wants to drink.
Well, yeah, you're right. I think he's more concerned about drinking and any opportunity to drink. But he makes 2 drinks and he tells Edward it's lemonade. And so Edward just sucks it up. And the look on his face when I thought that was super cute.
Well, I also like Alan Arkin does a pause to hear if Diane Wiest is coming downstairs.
Yeah. Because the lemonade joke is brought up later because poor Edward is back at Kathy Baker's house and she's trying to be cute, and then she makes him some lemonade and he goes lemonade and then throws up because he's clearly hungover from the night before. I Of course I like Johnny Depp. He's so cute, but I thought with this super pale makeup, he reminded me of the comedian Reese Nicholson,
And
who's
those
a
little
judge,
lips.
and with those little bitty lips, who's a judge on Drag Race Down Under. Oh gosh. So now that Edward's popular, it seems like Diane is really living. You know what else? Because I didn't remember the movie, I was assuming that she was going to use this newfound popularity to sell Avon. But she doesn't. She just seems to like the attention that Edward's getting. And so she starts like, she has everyone queued up at her backyard so Edward can groom their dogs. But the first person to get the grooming is Kathy Baker. And then after he does her dog's hair, Kathy says, cut my hair. And while Edward is cutting Kathy's hair, she has an orgasm.
Basically, yeah.
That was a lot.
But I mean, you said that people whose hair you've cut act very bizarre sometimes.
It's a very uncomfortable situation sometimes,
but
when you're touching people's heads.
That drives me crazy, that scene, because there's a whole line of women with their dogs.
Oh, you know what that makes me feel like? When you're waiting in a long line at the grocery store and then there's that one person talking to the cashier, like trying to tell stories and and then you want to tell, it's like the cashier should be like, there are people waiting. Can we,
like, Joyce, you bitch, go to the end of the line to get your hair done.
Another really funny moment is now that everyone loves, because Edward's hairdos are really cute. He's very creative. So now everyone thinks he should open a salon, but of course he needs money to do so. So a really funny scene is Diane and Edward go to the bank and the loan officer's like, you have no credit history, no job, no like accounts, checking accounts,
no social security number.
You don't have a social security number. You basically don't exist. And while the loan officer is saying that, the security, because the loan officer is sitting in front of the bank vault and the bank vault is open.
An obnoxiously large vault.
Like just nonsense, but it's so funny because it's so exaggerated. And then as the loan officer is basically making it clear that we're not going to give you 2 pennies to rub together, those security guards are slowly closing the bank vault door. I thought that was good. Oh gosh. So everything comes to a head with Anthony Michael Hall one night while Edward is outside carving an ice sculpture. Again, where in the hell are they getting these 1,000-pound blocks of ice? But during that scene where Anthony Michael Hall is like screaming at Edward, bullying him, Alan Arkin is on the roof hanging Christmas ornaments. Do you think he was drunk up there?
Maybe.
Because he was like singing to himself and then he doesn't hear any of the commotion.
No.
That was unbelievable to me. So then Edward gets mad after he's bullied and runs away. And then he runs by the Christian lady's house, the one who condemned him to hell. And we see that he's carved a demon in her front yard with like glowing red eyes. Oh gosh. When we see Vincent Price show Edward in a flashback the real hands he made him, I was so upset for Edward. You couldn't have thought of this. But then we see that the inspiration for Edward was a robot that Vincent had in his factory.
Yes.
Because it looked like he made cookies.
Yeah. He's so like, what if I give this robot a heart?
Right.
Yeah.
So it makes sense how Edward Scissorhands came to be. But it's just funny. Like, damn, you had to croak right when you were about to give me some hands.
And curious what Edward did with his body.
My last note is you found a fun fact about a prehistoric fossil. The Cutenicella-depi, an extinct arthropod that is named after Johnny Depp in his role of Edward Scissorhands. Of course, so Cutenicella-depi, so the depi is for Johnny Depp, but cella I think means like I forgot what I read. There's something sharp or something, which is, or claws maybe, and that's what cella's Latin for claws or scissors. So yeah, this creature, this prehistoric fossil, is named after Johnny Depp's character in Edward Scissorhands.
Doesn't Cienega mean scissors? No, it's Tierra, because we used to live on La Tierra and La Cienega.
Tierra means land.
Wait, what is?
Are we? So you want to know what scissors are in Spanish?
I thought we lived on. I thought that was your mother told me. Never mind.
Wait, maybe I'm wrong. Hold on. Let me bust out. Hold, please.
Notably, the studio wanted Tom Cruise for this role. This was the first time.
Oh, sorry. Scissors are tijeras.
Yeah.
We lived on tierra. So tijeras is Tijeras, and we lived on Tieras.
Oh.
So tierra means land. Tijeras means scissors.
Yeah, that's.
But we did not live on La Tijeras. We lived on La Tierra, like the land.
I thought the way the exit was. Anyway, never mind. Doesn't matter.
Wait, am I wrong?
The exit that I had to take many times was Tijera. I thought. But
oh, you're right then. So what am I talking about?
I don't know. That was years ago.
Oh, you know what I'm thinking? That coffee shop that's called Mi Tijera.
Yeah, that's Earth.
Mi Tierra.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm so backwards.
It's okay. I thought you'd be interested to know that Michael Jackson expressed an interest in playing Edward Scissorhands.
He's like, I don't need makeup.
Oh,
I don't need a costume.
No, but to me, it sounds like he would be. He felt like he probably could relate to this character.
I think that he would have been. Well, in 1990, he could have. He was young enough.
Well, and he's soft spoken and
he
sensitive.
Looks different.
He's fragile sometimes. Like I think he could have pulled that off because Johnny Depp doesn't have a lot of dialogue, and Michael is fine. I mean, he's fine in The Wiz,
and he has great. I mean, physical ability.
Yeah,
like he could have easily embodied that character.
Especially, and he's more slight of frame. I think Johnny Depp had to lose weight to play that character. Anyway, I enjoyed rewatching it, and I still maintain that I think this is my emotional favorite of Tim Burton's films because it had. Like it's always been in the back of my mind. Like it had a profound effect at the age that I saw it. But
well, I'm glad you were able to revisit it. What would you give Edward Scissorhands?
3.5.
I think it's very good. I would give it 3.5 out of 5. What's going on next week? I know there are videos dropping for The Last Showgirl,
mm-hmm.
Nickel Boys,
mm-hmm.
and then we're seeing something.
Craven.
That's a horror film, isn't it?
With Aaron Taylor Johnson?
Yeah.
It's like a comic book adaptation.
And then next week we'll have results from LAFCA
mm-hmm.
Awards.
Yeah.
And then you're reading the same book, I'm presuming.
Yes. Haven't had a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No.
Ta-ta.